Welcome, Freight Masters, to our guide on how to find shippers as a freight broker in 2023. In this video, we'll be discussing the various methods that you can use to build relationships with shippers and grow your business. Okay? As a freight broker, your job is to connect shippers and carriers. But how do you find shippers in the first place? Before I go on with that, I would like to mention DAT is the #1 marketplace for for brokers and carriers. If you're looking for that or any other links, everything is down below, and the DAT link will give you your first 30 days free. Okay, so first off would be picking a niche. All right. If you're brand new to the freight industry as an agent or a broker, one of the first things you're going to want to do is focus on is finding out a niche that you want to be in and become a master, an expert in that niche, right? If you've been in the industry for a year, 2 years, then I might suggest diversifying your book of business. Okay. Excuse me. But aside from that, figure out what your niche is going to be, whether it be steel or produce or any other kind of building material, whatever it is. Refrigerated freight might be frozen chicken, whatever it is. Because when you start calling, once you land your first customer and you start calling other customers and you're already moving freight that you're familiar with, that's going to be portrayed during your cold call. Right? They're going to recognize that you have experience in moving that type of product, right? Okay. Second thing, or before I move on to that, I almost forgot. I would, in 2023, especially right now, I know we're normally in that January, February lull. Things are slow. I think historically right now, from what I'm seeing, it's lower than the norm. So I would maybe start focusing on some of those smaller to medium-sized shippers. Some of our larger shippers have reduced rates to the point to where in many cases, it's not even really worth your time. You're going to spend all day, talking to 100 carriers before you book that load, right? And that's not something we want to do, is beat up our carriers. We want to try to be fair. And right now, with what we're seeing with the larger shippers, I would start focusing on those small and medium-sized shippers. Okay, and some of those might need educated. So if you've been an agent or broker for a little while, that's another thing I've been noticing lately is with some of the newer shippers that we've been bringing on, small to medium-sized ones, is a lot of them really aren't familiar with. For instance, we had a load a couple of weeks ago. Load value was 1.2 million. Okay. We carry 250 in cargo. Most carriers are going to have 100 to 250 in cargo. If something were to happen to that load, but they didn't realize that. So it's things like that that you need to be aware of and educate your shippers, and they'll appreciate it. In fact, they might even say, "Hey, we avoided a huge potential snafu there, right?" And they will potentially hand you more freight or give you all of their freight. Let's see. Char, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Hello, I wish calling shippers worked. I don't think calling will get you through. I've called 1,000 companies and been told their customer routed. Yeah, you're going to run into that. I would say don't stop cold calling. Maybe focus on a different type of shipper. Like I said, maybe those smaller to medium-sized companies. And I'm sure that some of them are customer routed. Out of 1,000, if it's truly 1,000, you might want to change your sales approach. I know sometimes when I'm a little off my game and they just want to get me off the phone, because it happens, even though I've been doing this for years, I have bad days with cold calling. That's sort of like their go-to excuse, right? Or they'll just say, not interested, and hang up. But yeah, try to change up your approach maybe a little bit and see if that helps. But yeah, definitely. I mean, that is one of the things that we run into, right? And by the way, Obviously, the live chat is open. If you guys have any questions while I'm going along, I'll be more than happy to pull them up and answer them for you live here. Second thing is once you find your niche, right, and you know what you're going to do, again, whether it's steel or produce or whatever, start networking. Network with other industry professionals. Start looking to your friends, family. You know, maybe they work. Maybe your niche is going to be plastics. So maybe you've got a friend or a relative that works at a plastics manufacturer, right? Whether it be the raw material or the final product. And, you know, maybe they're having a hard time getting trucks in right now or something, you know, and they might be able to give you that point of contact or make that introduction, right? So that's another way of getting in with a shipper. And that's sort of a warm lead, right? So obviously, I'm 100% believe in networking. So anything you can do and use, like other online resources like LinkedIn, right? Join some of those LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups. There are groups on LinkedIn that shippers are in, like transportation managers are in. So like you might look at like, I don't know, produce group or something on LinkedIn, for instance. Just an example, there's a bunch of them out there, right? But yeah, look into that and you will see transportation managers in there, shipping supervisors, whatever their title is, in there commenting, and they might be discussing with other transportation managers some of their pain points, right? And we can use that as ammunition to, when we make those calls, say, hey, I understand that you're having this pain point. Let me solve that for you, right? Because that's one of our other jobs besides just acquiring shippers and carriers and building relationships is being problem solvers, right? That's another huge part of what we do. So like I said, the more ammunition we have, the better off we're going to be when we make those calls. And we can turn that ice cold call into a warm call very, very quickly by having that information, right? Look up your Google News. Maybe you're looking at ABC Plastics, right? Maybe they've opened a new facility. Maybe they're based out of Quincy, Illinois, and they're building another location in Dallas. So when you call, you can say, hey, I noticed you opened up, you know, you're getting ready to open up another location there in Dallas. I've got capacity in Dallas, right? You've already told them you've got capacity. Well, how many trucks? Yep, we're normally within, 20 miles of your location or whatever the case may be. We've got 30 trucks down there every week, every day, whatever it is. And so because you've told them you have that already based relationship, you're not just going to be some load board jockey, right? You're going to, if they call you or send you an email and say, hey, Tim, I've got 3 loads that need to get picked up out of our new location down in Dallas, and I need that material brought up here to Quincy. Can you handle that for me? Gotcha. And get it done, right? But yeah, definitely use like your social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook. There's also industry websites out there like Produce Market Guide, for instance, right? They have a business directory where you see a whole list and you can break it down by state, region, I believe. There's steel industry websites on there that have businesses, or just look up. Google is like one of your best friends, right? If you have access to Google on your phone, your laptop, desktop, whatever you're using, use it. And then go to LinkedIn, find out who the transportation manager is at that company, and which often cases you can. And then when you call, you ask for that person directly, and that's something that's going to help you get past that gatekeeper, right? But because they're already going to assume that you have a working relationship with that person because you've asked for them by name, okay? Rather than just, hey, can I talk to shipping? Or asking the gatekeeper, can I be added to your freight distribution list? That's a huge no-no. That's a rookie 101 buzzer. Don't do it because you basically just told them that you're new and you're just going to post their freight on the board like everybody else, right? So do a little bit of legwork. It's going to help you out in the long run. All right, I promise you. And if they do ask, what's this in regards to? Just tell them it's in regard to personal business, you know, or it's in regard to business. And if they ask you again, just reiterate that. If you still can't get through, like I've mentioned in previous videos about getting past the gatekeeper, is call and ask to someone in sales, or call and talk to accounting. And then when they transfer you to accounting, because they don't care if you want to talk to accounting, right? You say, oh, I'm sorry, we're supposed to be transferred to shipping, or if you have the name of the person, I was just be transferred to John in shipping or something. They don't care. They're not the gatekeeper. They'll 9 times out of 10 just transfer you, right? And salesmen love to talk. So if you do call and talk to a salesperson, they might be able to tell you some of their pain points. And we're really having a hard time getting our freight moved out of Dallas over here to Salt Lake. You know, really? Okay. Well, that's something we can probably solve for you. You know, and oftentimes, you know, just having that short discussion with someone in sales, and then once they transfer you to the person in charge, you know, the decision maker over there in shipping, you're going to be armed there again with that information, that ammunition, and that's going to help you out, right? So again, Char, you said you've made 1,000 calls. Again, not focusing on you. 10 to 20 calls per day is not going to cut it. You're going to have to, especially if you're brand new and you're just starting out, you've got to be on that phone. You've got to pick up and dial, right? Maybe at the end of the day, do some homework on some of these companies that you plan on calling. Again, get that transportation manager's name if you can. Look up the names of the companies. If you have Zoom info, which we do have a link for all of that down below, that oftentimes has the direct phone number, the direct email to the transportation manager, supervisor, whatever their title is there again. And there are a ton of companies on there. It is a little bit pricey, I'm not going to lie, but it's well worth it if you can afford it, right? Because you're just automatically armed with that information. You've already got it, and then you just do the other part of it, your research on them, and that again will make you more successful. Follow-ups. Follow up even if they say no. Shippers needs change. They might not need you today, but they might need you tomorrow, right? Until they tell you to stop calling, keep calling. Follow up every week, every month. I've had shippers, like we moved recently this fall, and I had a shipper, and she literally told me that, you know, I would like to work with you, but I want to know who's serious about working with me, right? That was a very good indication that I needed to be making those follow-ups. And you know what? I dropped the ball. And as a veteran freight broker, I knew better. I just had a lot of other things going on. Not an excuse, but it happened. We make mistakes, right? We're human. So it does happen to me. Charger says, honestly, I've been calling for 6 months now. I'm going to have to just start showing up at shippers in my area. The phone isn't working anymore. That's another tactic. Some shippers can get a little weird about, you know, you just showing up and kind of catching them blindsided. Other ones will appreciate the fact that you've taken that step to just show up and talk to them face to face. I don't know what your background is, you know, in regards to brokering or anything, but definitely please don't give up on the phone. You can cover a lot more ground. But if you are going to go see shippers face to face, it's always nice to bring a box of donuts or a hot pizza for the guys on the loading dock, or, you know, something like that. So definitely kind of greasing the wheels there a little bit certainly doesn't hurt. Okay. But yeah, another great way to to acquire shippers. But yeah, your follow-ups, absolutely. Again, even if they say no, they might need you tomorrow, next month, 3 months. I've actually spent a year working on acquiring a customer, and then when I finally got them, we ended up doing almost immediately about $250,000 a month in invoice through them. A lot of times we would hit 325 different times of the year. So yeah, certainly don't give up. Keep that, you know, and this is where like a CRM like HubSpot, it's free. I should have included a link down below for you guys, but I didn't. I apologize. I can go back and add it. But just look up HubSpot. It's really an easy to use CRM, and I like it a lot. So definitely use that. Char says 26 years as a realtor, and I never use the phone to get sales. Right. Real estate, maybe a little bit different than what we're doing. But definitely you have experience in sales. So as a realtor, so, you know, hey, what works for some people doesn't work. It's not cookie cutter, right? What works for one person doesn't work for everybody. So, so yeah, you definitely have some experience there, and I would say go for it. If you change your plan, you want to go see them face to face, absolutely do that. So, and another thing is, don't forget that your receivers are prospects too. Going back to our example of shipping raw plastic material, right? The little pellets that they'll turn into coat hangers or widgets or whatever. If you're shipping, like, say, that raw material, they are obviously not the end user. You're shipping to a company that's using that raw material to turn that into whatever, right? So those receivers are potential customers too, because you're already sending trucks into them. So you've already proved, you've got capacity right there. Not to mention the fact that that's going to help strengthen your carrier relationships, because you can get them reload. They'll get offloaded and probably get reloaded right there, right? They don't have to run 30 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles deadhead to go grab another load. They're already there, right? And it might be a return lane. Maybe you're shipping that raw material out of Dallas to Quincy, Illinois or something, just as an example. And they said, yeah, we're shipping back to Dallas. So then you put together that dumbbell, right? And that driver's appreciative. He already knows day to day what his load's going to be. He's familiar with the pickup hours, the receiving hours. He gets to know the people on the loading dock. Maybe something happens. It's always a very good scenario if you can make that happen, right? So again, don't forget about your receivers. And I promise you, by using these methods and building relationships with shippers, you can grow your book of business and become a more successful freight broker. I want to appreciate everybody for watching. Good luck building your book of business. As always, I wish everybody well. If anybody has any more questions, now that I've kind of gone through some of that, even if it's not related to today's video, I'll leave it a moment to open that up for Q&A. Another thing too is look at billboards. When you're driving down the highway or something, check out billboards. Construction companies are another resource. We actually, at one point in time, we had a large construction company. They did like big commercial buildings and stadiums and things like this. And they would literally every 2 weeks, we shipped all of their tools from one side of the country to the other side of the country. So even though they're not like a manufacturer or anything like that, they're more of a service provider. They still have equipment and machinery and tools and things like this that need to go from point A to point B. Oftentimes that requires, maybe low boys or step decks, whatever it is. And if you have that resource available to you, obviously utilize that. No more questions. I do appreciate the questions that you guys hit me up with today. I always love getting questions and answering them for you. But yeah, you follow those steps, I guarantee you, you are going to be more successful. You just got to stay diligent, avoid distraction, things like this. Don't get complacent, and you will be more successful. And obviously, there's more out there. There's and you can look at micro niches, things that you're maybe not readily thinking about that you want to focus on, like over-dimensional type freight, overweight type freight that requires permits and things like that. If you are brand new to the freight industry and brokering, not something like that I would not necessarily recommend until you've got experience with other types of freight. But absolutely, if you're at the point to where you're looking to diversify your portfolio, looking into some higher dollar type freight, things like that, absolutely. And there again, by networking, maybe with someone who already has broker experience moving that type of freight, they might be a very good mentor, right? And joining those groups, connecting on social media, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, there's a wealth of them out there. But all right, well, I guess if there's no more questions, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up for you. I do appreciate everybody that watches, and as always, be kind to one another. Bye-bye now.